Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blackhawks Roundtable presented by the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Brooke LoFurno, joined by my colleagues, Gail Kauchak and Hunter Crowther. We said last week we wanted a better week, and it's been a week for the Blackhawks. They lost to the Edmonton Oilers 4-1 on Tuesday, lost to the Seattle Kraken 7-1 on Thursday, and then hosted the Vancouver Canucks at the United Center on Sunday, and obviously lost the game 4-3. But honestly, that was probably their best performance of the week because that could have been a catastrophe with all the injuries and stuff in Vancouver being a top four team. But you know what? We'll take those kind of performances. The effort was there. Unfortunately, the results were not. But it was their fourth straight loss. And like we just said, the Blackhawks right now are dealing with a lot of injuries. So we'll get into all of that today. But before we start, please be sure to follow me, Gail, and Hunter on Twitter. We usually live tweet most games, and that's where you can find all of our content. Also, be sure to follow all of our articles at thehockeywriters.com. And also, please be sure to subscribe to the Hockey Writers Substack. If you're a Blackhawks fan, you can subscribe to the Blackhawks portion of it. We just have lots of fun content, and you'll get emails with all of our articles, all of our recent articles, so you never miss anything. And also, if you want to subscribe to premium content, you can also get even more updates from prospects to quizzes and everything else. So if you're interested in all that, all the links will be in the description below. Okay. So, like I said, we got a lot to get into today with the Blackhawks roster. So, the first thing we got to start off with is injuries and the impact on the team right now. So, the Blackhawks have been without Jared Tenorti, Kevin Korchinski, and then Seth Jones the last three games. Alex Vlasic hasn't played the last game and a half. And then Connor Murphy blocked a puck with his knee the last game, and that honestly looked kind of frightening. But thankfully he returned to the game. And then this morning, Joey Anderson was put on IR with a left shoulder injury, which is exactly what Seth Jones is dealing with too, a left shoulder injury. I'm really not liking these left shoulder injuries lately. So let's talk about this, guys. What are your thoughts on all these injuries and the impact they're having on the team? Gail, I'm starting with you.
To be honest with you, I know that it hurts them and it stinks and they're losing, but I almost feel like it's going to help them in the long run. They've just got this next man up mentality, and especially the defense. They're just baptism by fire. They're getting opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have gotten. Louis Crevier, Isaac Phillips, Philip Roos, and Wyatt Kaiser. They've been called up and down, and who knows if Crevier would even have been up there if it wasn't for some injuries. And sure, they're going to make mistakes, but they also are realizing that they can hold their own and that they really can compete with NHL talent. So, and look at let's say Vlasic, he went down, but before that he was basically just thrust into this top defenseman role. And he had a team high 24-58 minutes, quarterback the top power play without even any practice, and he really did great. So let's face it, you guys, this is pretty much a lost season, but these kids are getting so much exposure. And I really think that as long as the coaching staff handles it well, which I feel pretty confident that they are, this is going to accelerate these guys' development.
Hunter, what do you kind of make of all the injuries and kind of the impact it's having on the team right now?
Just to piggyback on Gail's point, that it feels like like the NFL's next man up mentality, where once bodies start dropping, then well, someone else has to just step up and take over. And again, just like Gail said, the D has really stepped up, and whether it's asking a lot out of Vlasic and Korchinski and younger players, and then having to call up people from the AHL, they've seemed to accept the challenge and take it. Over the course of a full 82 game season, we'll see the toll that it takes, because like, they're young players and they're full of piss and vinegar and they've got lots of energy, but it's also a gruel, or it's also a grind to play 3-4 games a week and prepare your body to day in, day out get ready for the ice. So I'd be curious to see where they are in February if these injuries continue to happen or players are still out of the lineup. But as for right now, the results aren't there, but we've seen a massive increase in effort, and I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Unfortunately, I think even General Manager Kyle Davis had said this too about injuries happen in this league. Some teams get it worse than others. Right now, the Blackhawks are dealing with it. It stinks that it happened all at the same time. That Seth Jones went down, and then Vlasic went down, and then Jared Tenorti went back on IR, and then Kevin Korchinski was out. it's hard, I think, especially to lose your top defenseman like that, especially. And then obviously with Jared Tenorti, obviously he's been dealing with so many injuries, and that's really tough to hear. But the good news is it seems like Alex Vlasic is short term. It doesn't seem serious, which is a good thing. And I'm with Gail too. Honestly, it is a next man up mentality in the NHL, and it is a lost season. And if you want your prospects, to get playing time and to kind of get a feel for the NHL, this is a good time to do it. Because they really aren't fighting for a playoff spot and they got to learn. This is probably the best time they can learn. So, and it really, I think, will test the resilience of this team too. They already have been tested a lot this season, but especially like in a development year, this will kind of really test them too. It, like you said, it kind of like refocuses them a little bit and kind of forces them even to play, I think, even harder than usual, which is all a good thing. That all helps development when you're learning to win with all these circumstances and everything going on around you. So yeah, like I said, it helps their play. Hopefully helps more development time. I'm for it, and that's honestly probably the best you can hope for is that they take advantage of their opportunities. They take advantage of their playing time. The rookies, especially with Isaac Phillips and Wyatt Kaiser being recalled and stuff like that. So hopefully it's a really sucky situation for sure. But like I said, hopefully it makes them a stronger team in the long run. Okay, so we got to talk about the second topic, which I kind of told Gail I want to talk about today, which was the third line of Joey Anderson, Nick Foligno, and Jason Dickinson. And now that I'm saying that, it kind of stinks because now Joey Anderson is on IR, and it kind of stinks. But I thought we could talk about this because in my mind, to me, it's very hard to find the perfect line combo on this team with so many pieces out, and just it's very hard to find, I think, just the right ones with everyone being shuffled. But this line to me is as close to perfect on this roster as you can get. It's exactly, I think, what you want to see out of a bottom six line. They're working hard, they're productive, they just fit together. And obviously Nick Foligno and Jason Dickinson have experience playing together from early on in the season when they played with Corey Perry on that line. But now with Joey Anderson, he's honestly been rock solid even since last year. They're not flashy, but they're effective and they get stuff done. And honestly, it's what you want to see. I'm very upset that, like I said, that Joey Anderson unfortunately is now hurt. But I think that's been a very big bright spot on this team is to have one line that besides Connor Bedard's line, that's very productive, but seeing that I think really helps too. And I think that could be maybe a fun line for the future too, or maybe even just for a little bit longer. So let's talk about this. What do you guys think of this line? Hunter, I'm going to start with you.
Really, other than like not even a line, but the combination of like Bedard and Kurashev, there's been almost no consistency in the forward group this season. So like you said, to have a line that's, night in and night out, actually, like, seemingly like they're actually having good shifts. And I keep repeating this through the season, but especially with, like, crappy teams, you're going to have nights where it looks like you're losing every battle or you're not able to get anything. And all the credit to Foligno and Dickinson this year, they've been probably the most consistent forwards other than Bedard, who night in and night out is fantastic. But having like a legitimate third line that I would put up against any other NHL's third or fourth line other than maybe like the Golden Knights or the LA Kings, like they're pretty solid again. And I don't know, like I feel like this season it's been like short of expectations, or we haven't really had any expectations to try and reach to. So just to like know that on any given night you're going to have. And again, it sucks that we've lost Anderson now, and hopefully it's not long term. But I don't know. It's again like I don't know what to say other than it's just nice to have a line that's consistent in a National Hockey League franchise.
Yeah, I agree with that. Gail, what do you kind of make of the third line and how they've been doing?
Okay, well, I really hope that Anderson comes back soon because, this is the 15, 16, 17 line. Anderson's number 15. Dickinson is 16 and Foligno is 17. So come on, right? We got to play together. But right, Dickinson, he's got the A on his sweater because Jones was out. Good for him. And I think I would assume that they'll keep that A on his sweater because it was Corey Perry's before. So he would make the fourth now. And then this last game, Foligno scored 2 goals. Anderson had a beautiful assist. What's there not to like? And Richardson is actually showing that he's, happy with their hard work because he's literally had them be the starting line for a couple weeks now. I think most of the time they're the starting lineup. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, the hard working line with them, I think, has been contagious. Like I said, they scored the first goal against the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, you kind of need that kind of line. And I think Nick Foligno had mentioned with Jason Dickinson even early on that it's very easy to play with someone like him that's so reliable. So when you kind of have, when you know you have reliable players, and obviously Jason Dickinson has been fantastic all year, and then obviously Nick Foligno has been really good, and then Joey Anderson's been really good. I think there's just a good vibe on that line. Like you said, unfortunately, hopefully, Joey Anderson's not out too long. I know he's on IR, but hopefully it's not longer than because yeah, they were rolling and that's kind of tough to see. But like you guys said, it's great to have a line that the Blackhawks know works right now, and they can always come back to that. Even like I said, the Bedard line is great, but it's good to have two lines that they know is productive for them. Um, okay, so we have to talk about kind of the sad news that came out this past week about Kevin Korchinski. So the Blackhawks had said he was out dealing with a family matter, and it was announced that his father, Larry, passed away, and that's why he's been away from the team. And honestly, it's kind of just that's just kind of unfathomable to me for a 19-year-old, to lose their dad, so young. And it's like I said, it's so tragic. I literally just can't even wrap my head around it. But the good, or not even just kind of like I think the wholesome part of this whole thing is that the Blackhawks actually went after their game in Seattle. They actually flew to Saskatoon. The entire team did to attend Kevin Korchinski's dad's funeral, which honestly was such a very touching gesture. And that's kind of what you want to see, right? So let's talk about this. Gail, this was a topic you wanted to talk about. So kind of what were your kind of observations kind of from the Blackhawks, making that gesture and to go to Korchinski's dad's funeral?
I think it was very beneficial that they were able to make it work out, having it be an off day. And I'm sure it was great for Korchinski and also for the rest of the family to have that kind of support from the entire team. And it just reinforces that family culture that the Blackhawks are trying to build. Nick Foligno, again, the guy that says everything right. They're a brotherhood, and when one of them hurts, they all hurt. So obviously it's kind of cliche, and the Blackhawks aren't the only team that's a tight-knit team. They're not the only team that sends their entire team to a funeral. But these kids, this team is mostly just kids, and they're being exposed to this kind of thing right off the bat, and it's the right thing, and that's just what they're going to learn to expect. So I guess with all the fallout that's happened over the last few years with the Chicago Blackhawks, it's good to see that the organization seems to be turning it around and doing things the right way.
Yeah, that definitely was the right thing to do. Like you said, Kevin Korchinski's part of the Blackhawks family. He's a big part of it, and that was honestly the best gesture they could have done. Hunter, what do you kind of make of the Blackhawks making that extra effort to go to his funeral?
I think it's just sad that like his dad wasn't yet 60
Mhm.
and he's not yet 20. And like I just turned 30 and I still have my dad, and um I can't imagine like thinking back to the man I was when I was 19
Mhm.
and still navigating through life. And even right now, like I'm still trying to figure stuff out. And I'm sure a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, and you get into your 40s, you still are. And knowing that you have someone that you can lean on and reach out to, they're always there. And I think Kevin's in a unique spot because he's a professional hockey player and his father was. And now that he's barely a professional, knowing that he'd have someone to talk to go through the ropes and just understand how to be a professional. I think that that's something that you can't quantify, and not just that aspect professionally, but now, um, I'm sorry, it's just I
Okay.
can't imagine I can't imagine what he's going through, and I think it's just a testament to there's a lot of there's a lot of toxicity about professional sports, and I think that there are moments like this that um, can help us realize that there's not many things stronger than the people that you spend every day with, because they become your family. And we roll our eyes at cliches, and they're cliches for a reason because they hold some truth. And I don't know if that really answers any question, but I just think that the gesture of 20, 30 something men flying with him to Saskatoon or to Saskatchewan to be there for him. That's what I'm guessing is the hardest point of his life. It's important.
Yeah, it is. And I think even like when the whole Corey Perry thing happened, like I think we talked about like how all of us have a fun time, doing what we do, covering the team and covering the ins and outs of games and obviously talking about line combinations and all that. That's really fun. But when the human element of just life comes into everything, you realize just how not important those things are, like how not important the Blackhawks losing to Vancouver was in spite of everything because life happens and it's so much bigger than hockey at the end of the day. So I'm sure that really meant the world to Kevin for the Blackhawks to show up to support him. I'm sure that literally meant the entire world. And yeah, I don't really have words for it because it's so touching and it's just I can't imagine really what he's going through. Like I can't put my brain there, but all we can do is kind of just send all of our love and well wishes to him and his family because oh boy, that's just I can't. I really can't. But we're hoping, like I said, the team said they're going to let him take all the time he needs, and that's the correct thing, and that's the correct way to go about it. But it's good to see the team rally together and be together during, like I said, everything they've gone through. So that's really nice to see. Like you guys said, the brotherhood that they keep talking about, it's on full display. Okay, so the next topic we're going to talk about is something that kind of came out yesterday. I know Ben Pope of the Chicago Sun-Times talked about this a little bit in his recent article and I think it's maybe something that's been on the back of Blackhawk fans' minds, but it's just, I don't think anyone wants to say it, but we're going to talk about it. About just this team being worse than last year's team. And I don't think that's a stretch considering they're missing half their team and just everything. So let's talk about this, guys. Is this team, do you think, worse than last year's squad? Or at the very least, do you think they'll finish with a worse record than last season? And Hunter, this is something you want to talk about, so take it away.
Yeah, I read I think it was Pope's story, yeah. And it was just like something I was chewing on through the day about like I don't know. I was looking through last season, and I feel like fans understood that it was going to be a bit of a down year, but so much of it was okay. Who are we trading to get assets? It felt like the last dance or like the last ride with Tays and Kane. And I was looking at the stats last year. I know that a few players were traded, but no one hit 50 points last year. Because Domi was traded, and then Kane was traded, and then Athanasiou topped out at 40. I think we can safely say Bedard will eclipse 50 this year because, good God, that guy is good at hockey. But I just feel like with the combination of injuries and how we're not even thinking about wins at this point, we're now looking at like who's having a good string of games, who's not a minus something at the end of the night. I just looked it up. The only team that's allowed more goals in the entire NHL are the San Jose Sharks, and they had perhaps the worst start in modern NHL history. I know that this podcast or this episode, it's just looked at a lot of negatives, but I think fans have to come to accept that this season might be worse than last year. And I think last year they finished with, gosh, what was it, like 57 points, I think? And they might be hovering in that area too. So I don't know. It was just something that I was chewing on, and I was like, I don't know if they're worse or if there's just been more injuries, but it's tough. This season is tough.
You know what? This is a safe space. We're venting. I know there's a lot of negatives going on with all the injuries and stuff, and all the losing, but it's a safe space, guys. We're getting through this together. Gail, what do you think about this year's team compared to last year's team? Like, are they gonna end up being worse than last year like when the season's over?
Well, let's face it, you had Patrick Kane, even though he was, not at his best. He still figured out how to get things done. He's still figured out how him and Domi went on that run. You had him for most of the season before the trade deadline. You only had Tays until what? I think it was the end of January, but he's winning faceoffs left and right. He's still probably the best faceoff man in the league, even though he's not in the league anymore. Well, who knows if he's out. But yeah, and then Hunter, you mentioned the Sharks and how bad of a start they have, but last time I checked, I think the Blackhawks have the worst record, even worse than the Sharks last point. So
Yeah.
I think you could be onto something there. And you really don't have anybody. You don't have a superstar that you can lean on, except for Bedard, who's only 18 years old and has nobody around him to support him, really, in all honesty. There's so many times when you see a pass go to Philip Kurashev and he's not ready for it. Wash, rinse, repeat. Kurashev isn't ready. Bedard gives it to him. He's not ready. So absolutely, I think that this could definitely be a worse year than last.
Yeah, for sure. They're missing a lot of talent, and I think it's not their, like, I know that, like, even Davidson said, like, obviously they did not go into the season thinking that Taylor Hall was going to get injured or have a season-ending injury after 10 games, and obviously everything with Corey Perry happening, and they didn't expect, Seth Jones and Vlasic and Joey Anderson to all get hurt and stuff, and Jared Tenori all at the same time, and, like, obviously you don't expect these things to happen, and obviously I know they talk about if they did have that full team, then they would be maybe a little bit more competitive, even though, to be frank, they weren't even that good still. But point is, they're just missing a lot of talent, and that's not their fault that all that stuff happened. But I'm frustrated in the sense of, like, when you get a number one overall pick like Bedard, who is fantastic, you want to at least be a better team than you were last year, the team that actually got him. You would think, and you think that's important too, knowing just for Bedard's development, even though you understand that they weren't expected to be very good this year. But it is frustrating to know that this is a worse team with the number one pick, and it's not their fault in that sense. So it's just, yeah, unfortunately, it just seemed like a lot of just bad luck all around. But all I think we can hope for is that they at least give an effort. And like you said, the effort's been better lately. We talked about this before, that we were frustrated with the effort level a lot of times. But at this point, if they lose, I guess it is what it is, but you just hope the effort's there. And I think, yeah, like I said, Bedard's fantastic. At least we have him. At least we have him to watch every night. I do enjoy that first line. We did enjoy that third line. So, like you said, there's still a lot. There's still a long season ahead. Maybe things will change. Maybe Kyle Davidson will make a move. I don't bank on that, but we'll see what happens here. I don't know. We don't know. But yeah, definitely, I think they're going to end up worse than last year. Okay. So now we are in the shootout round of the show. This is how we end our show, with quick fire questions and answers. So are you guys ready for this?
Always.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, question number 1 of the shootout. Should the Blackhawks try to re-sign de facto captain Nick Foligno, who's basically, no one wants to say it, but he is the captain basically of this team? Gail, I'm going to start with you.
I'm sure that it would be awesome for him to go to a contending team, and that might happen, and there might not even be a choice. But I also think that Nick Foligno really enjoys his role, and I think he likes what they're building in Chicago. And I could see him, both sides wanting to re-sign him, depending upon what happens at the trade line and what they might be able to get for him. So, yeah.
Hunter, should they re-sign Nick Foligno?
I think they should try. Do the same thing that they did with in the offseason with Foligno and Perry, where you overpay them to stay. But like you said, I think he still wants a cup. If it's something where they trade him to a contender and he has a chance this spring, and then they try to sign him again in the summer, all the power to them. But yeah, absolutely. I think they should at least try to do another plump offer to let him stay.
Yeah, I think they should re-sign him, or I think they should at least try. Because I think we knew that giving a 1-year deal probably meant he might be one and done. But I think even Davidson was pretty mum about it when he was asked about if he would re-sign him. He just said, I don't know why we wouldn't want to have him around. But everything's kind of just mum at this point. Like you said, maybe he wants to chase a cup, and I wouldn't blame him if he did. But yeah, I think they should try, though. I think there's a fit there on both sides, but we'll see. Like you said, we'll see how strongly he feels about wanting to stay in a rebuild compared to wanting to compete. But yes, I'm with you guys. I think they should at least try to re-sign him, try to make it work. Okay, the next shootout question is actually a question from a follower. So the question is, as the Blackhawks reach 30 games played, Connor Bedard now has 26 points. Should we expect Bedsy to hit the 30-30 club in year one, which is 30 goals and 30 assists? Hunter?
Bedsy. Hockey players have the worst nicknames. Yes, I think you will. I went into the season thinking that he'd hit the over on 67.5 points, and right now that's looking good. I think he's going to get 30-30. His passing is, again, I think I said it last week, his passing is way better than I anticipated it being. I thought he was a pure goal scorer, but yeah, I think he will definitely hit 30-30.
Gail, what do you think? Will Bedard hit 30-30 here?
Yeah, I predicted a point per game, which, would put him around the 80 points. And just like you had said, Hunter, he's pretty balanced. Right now, what is he, 14 and 12, I want to say?
Yeah. Yeah, 12 goals, 14 assists.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, he's really even with his goals and assists. He knows when to shoot and he knows when to pass. So yeah, absolutely. I think he could do it.
I do too. I'm with you guys. I think it's very realistic that he hits that, and probably the only player on the Blackhawks that I think can. So we're rooting for him. I want to see that happen. That would make this season even more fun. He's already fun to watch. That would be amazing. Okay, so because of the injuries to Seth Jones and Alex Vlasic and Kevin Korchinski being out, the Blackhawks rolled with 5 forwards on their power play in the Canucks game and got 2 goals from it. Should they stick with the 5 forwards going forward? That was kind of fun pun there. Gail, I'm gonna start with you.
This is kind of a tough one for me. Right? They had the 5 forwards and they got 2 goals out of it, but it's such a small sample size. I don't know. I mean, I think it all kind of goes through Connor Bedard anyway, and so as long as they keep the puck in, I don't think it really even matters who's the quarterback of the power play.
Yeah. Hunter, what do you think? Do you think they should stick with the 5 forward power play?
Sure, do it. I mean, they do it all the time in junior hockey and in college, and you get some astronomical, like Barry Bonds like power play numbers there. So why not? Yeah, 5 and 5.
Yeah, I hate the 5 forward power play. When I saw that, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I get that they were out of options, but remember last season, it's like every time they did the 5 forward power play, it was an automatic shorthanded goal. Thankfully, it worked.
Yeah.
Although there was that chance, that was that shorthanded chance by Vancouver. But you know what? Like I said, at this point, if it works, fine. I don't think it's a long-term solution, but I'm a little scared to keep testing that theory, though. I'm not gonna lie. But at least it worked. Okay, so we talked about how Pat Boyle, Kaylee Chelios, and John Scott had like a fun rapid fire question segment, and we're gonna get to the second half of the questions because we did the first half last week. So the question is, the Blackhawks prospect I'm most excited to see make his NHL debut. Hunter?
It was the other first-round pick from last year, Oliver Moore, University of Minnesota. I'm lucky here in Canada because TSN gets a lot of college hockey games, so I've been lucky to see some Big Ten. And if you haven't been lucky enough to see him, then he'll be on the U.S. team for the World Juniors. Sneaky good passer. He's already playing great with some 20-somethings right now. Take a look at the World Juniors this winter.
Gail?
I was always intrigued with, and I still am, Frank Nazar, University of Michigan, 13th overall in 2022. And he was injured most of the first year. So possibility that he actually could be with the Blackhawks, kind of like Kevin Korchinski this year, but he's not. But he's doing great at University of Michigan. And I'm wondering if he might join the Blackhawks at the end of the season for a spin.
Fellow Italian friend in Frank Nazar. I love it. And Oliver Moore is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. I'm gonna say Colton Dach, because he's been doing obviously really well in Rockford. I don't know when I think it's possible he makes his NHL debut towards the end of the season, but either way, I'm really hoping he pans out because that would be really fun. And I think he's a fun player. I think we're all pretty big fans of Colton Dach. So we'll see. And maybe with all these injuries, maybe we'll see him sooner. I don't know. But right now I know they want him to develop, and that's okay. Okay, so the player I am most surprised by, I guess you could take this as either surprised good or surprised bad. Gail?
I'm going to go with surprise good, and I'm going to say Kevin Korchinski. I can't wait, and I hope he comes back. Obviously, take all the time you need, Kevin. But I truly thought that he would get sent back to the Seattle Thunderbirds. He was only 19, so young. I really didn't think he was going to break the team, and he did, and he's actually doing really, really well, and he's one of the top defensemen, and I can't wait for him to get back.
Hunter, the player you're most surprised by, surprise good or surprise bad?
I'm going surprise good, and we've been singing his praises this entire podcast and throughout the season. It's Nick Foligno. I really, if I'm being completely pessimistic, I thought he'd be like plumped on the fourth line and maybe a healthy scratch on some nights. He's shown that he's still a pretty legitimate NHL player, and I think in a lot of circumstances, I'd see what value could get out of trading for him, because some team's gonna want a guy like him on a playoff roster, absolutely. But no, honestly, he's been like a very pleasant surprise this season.
Yes, I think honestly we could go about this in a lot of different ways. I think there's a lot of pleasant surprises, but I'm going to go surprise bad here, and I'm going to go Taylor Radish, because I don't really know. He's honestly surprised me in the fact that I thought he was going to be a lot more productive than he has been so far. And I know he's playing on special teams and stuff, and that's fine, but I just expected him to score more, I think. He showed a lot of promise last year, and right now I'm just not seeing a lot. So hopefully kind of by the new year he kind of starts picking it up more, but I'm kind of surprised by that, especially with it being a contract year. Okay, so finally, predictions for next week. Last week, Gail and Hunter said 4 points, while I said 2 points, and nobody was right, because they got 0 points. So yay us, we're doing really good at this. So they have the Colorado Avalanche on Tuesday and the Montreal Canadiens on Friday, and then the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. So how many points are they going to get here, Hunter?
I've been way too optimistic. Now I'm going to go the complete opposite. I think they're going to lose to Colorado. I think they will beat Montreal. I think it'll go to overtime, because I just don't believe in Montreal. And I think they'll lose to St. Louis. So 2 points for me.
Gail, how many points are you going here?
Yeah, it's hard to be optimistic when you're optimistic and you're always wrong so much. So the way this roster is, I'm just not feeling very confident. I think I'm going to say 2 points as well. And I really hope that they can at least get a game and get those 2 points.
Yeah. I'm going to say 2 points too. I was close enough with 2 points. So I'll go there, and I'm not sure where, but do you know what? They might have, I think, a better like revenge performance against the Avalanche and the Montreal Canadiens, which, as you know, that was their worst losses to start the season. So I hope so I'm thinking maybe the win will come against Montreal. I don't know there, but we'll see it. Hopefully 2 points though, at least. Okay, so that will end this episode of the Blackhawks Roundtable. Thank you, Gail and Hunter, for joining me today. And for all of our followers, please be sure to follow us on Twitter. Tweet us your thoughts, questions, concerns, comments. We want to hear it all. Which prospects are you guys excited to see? How would you guys, fix the team right now? Just tell us everything. Tell us everything you thought. Tell us your predictions, and as always, you can find all of our articles at thehockeywriters.com. Please subscribe to the Hockey Writers Substack if you're interested. All the links will be in the description of this video, and we want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you guys. Hopefully, the Blackhawks can come out with a Christmas win here. I think that'd be really great if they could do that going into the break here. So thank you guys again, and we'll see you guys next week, and go Hawks!
Go Hawks!